It's Nolan. Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show. There's a reason rappers can turn any story into a hit track. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys and more than 100 offices nationwide. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, your case could be worth millions. But the truth is, a lot of people either don't file at all or get taken advantage of by insurance companies. When you hire Morgan & Morgan, it's like hiring a legal army that has your back. If you're injured because of someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. No shortcuts, no lowball offers. In fact, they've secured some major verdicts in the past. For example, in Florida, they got a victim who was in a life-altering car crash, $12 million. 34 times the highest insurance offer. They got another victim in Philadelphia, $26 million. 40 times the highest insurance offer. Not all law firms are created equal. Morgan & Morgan is the biggest for a reason. They will fight for the biggest award possible and have won a lot. So if you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless you win. That's right, no upfront costs. They only get paid if you get paid. You can start your claim now by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Again, if you find yourself injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Don't say I never told you nothing, man. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Okay, in this video, we're gonna get back into the Megan Thee Stallion Milagro trial. I've been reading through some of the people's reactions that took place this morning in the courthouse. Of course, Megan Thee Stallion was back on the stand. She was on the stand yesterday. She was also on the stand today for cross-examination, and I believe cross was conducted by Jeremy McLemont, who is, of course, one of Milagro Graham's, aka Milagro Cooper's, defense attorneys. All right. Now, word on the street is that today was a bit tense. There was a lot of tension in the room, right? Because yesterday, Megan Thee Stallion was able to, paint the picture of how Milagro affected her. She was able to talk about, T. Ferris giving her the updates and all of this type of stuff. She was able to talk about her career and all of these different things. But today, it was more so of a contentious vibe, basically a refresher of the events that took place on the night that she was shot, and basically debating with Jeremy McLemont about the nature of what happened. Because his job as the defense attorney for Milagro is to try to find inconsistencies in her story, try to pick holes, or at bare minimum, point out areas that a reasonable person could possibly disagree with. You know what I'm saying? Because that's his job to say, hey, Milagro is just a spectator. She comes out and says her opinion. And although things happen a certain way, there's enough questionable things that Milagro could possibly have a different perspective about. Again, that's his job to try to create that, right? Especially in dealing with a jury, because they've been confronted with, of course, all of Megan's hardships, Megan's losses, her time in therapy, her going on that 30-day retreat, which costed her $240,000, the deep fake, all of the things that affected her mental health. They were confronted with that. So, of course, in order to try to combat that, McLemont and Milagro's defense, they had to try to find a way to balance out the odds and try to give her a fighting chance. Now, again, as somebody who was not present in the courtroom, I don't want to try to speak as any type of authority on the subject matter because I was not in the room. But tonight I will be reacting to Miss Pam Esquire, who is an attorney, who does this, as far as I know, for a living. And she gave her notes of what happened in the courtroom today. And I want to go through her video. It's about an hour. I don't want to be on here too long, but I do want to get to some unbiased commentary from somebody who, to my knowledge, isn't partial to Megan or Milagro and is just looking at it from, you know, as neutral of a standpoint as I've found online. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we get started, I do want to say I literally hate that we're having to address this whole Tory Lanez situation, the shooting, her having to relive this and be confronted with this information and have to talk about it all over again. We lived through, conversation about this up until Tory's conviction, after his conviction, diss records that he's put out since being convicted, the appeal being denied. Like, this has really been a 5-year process that seems to not be going nowhere, even though he's made no progress in, proving his innocence. But unfortunately, because of Milagro's coverage throughout the trial and everything to follow, that's what we're dealing with here. Okay?
Lunch till 12:30, and at 12:30 the attorneys will hash out any issues that they have, and they will also go over the jury instructions. So wasn't no need for me to stay there and be there. So there. The woman he chose, good to see you. Directors J, good to see you. Miss Sue Dominique, good to see you. Kimberly, good to see. Okay, I got everybody
Let's
back
get to some.
on the
All
stand
right.
after that. What I will tell you today, so Megan P, or as known as Megan the Stallion, she came in. She had her gray suit on. She had her French roll with pins in the French roll, like writing pins in the French roll that she had in her hair, and the demeanor was a whole lot different. So yesterday, and this is one of the things that I was saying, that with Milagro, what I can say is she was consistent across the board. So when she was talking to, I mean, she started out talking to to Megan's attorneys anyway, because they called her, but she never was. She didn't come across, I guess, as combative. Like, she just was talking and she was answering the questions, and she did that on with Megan Pete's attorney, and then she also did that, of course, with her attorney on cross. What I will say is yesterday it feels like, well, when Megan Pete came on there, she was very energetic and she was telling her story, got emotional. Today she was a little snippy. Hmm. That's the best way, in my opinion. It feels like she was a little snippy on the stand. She was little irritated or something. So they start out the cross examination and they go back to the whole drinking issue, and they pull up the video and talking about her drinking. So then they put up a text message from August 31st, 2022. I'm sure we talked about that during Ferris's testimony, where she was basically saying that, uh, so this was a part of the thread. So I don't think we may have talked about that specific text message, but she was talking about how she felt and what she was going through. She felt sad. She said she was crashing out, and she said apparently this was related to the issue with Carl Crawford and Jay Prince. Remember, she was on their label, she was trying to get out, and so she was saying she just don't know what to do, gives all these emotions about just feeling defeated. And of course, Ferris, which he always had done, he supports her, encourages her, and asks her, like, do you want to come down? Do you want me to go down there? So the attorney asked her, what do you mean by you going down to Houston? Because that's what he asked, like, did you need me to go down to Houston? And she was like, no, because you got a family, you got kids or whatever, and I don't want you to go down there. And they asked her what she meant, because it didn't say specifically who she was talking about. And she said, well, I believe that they're talking about the J Prince and the record label issue with Carl Crawford and them. And so she was saying that she believed when she told him not to go down to Houston, the reasoning was because these people kind of rough, and I don't want you going down there getting into nothing. So just kind of leave it alone. But she was just sharing with him how she felt. She she did say, like, they did, they were like, well, who were they and what did they do? And she was like, they did the bare minimal when she was on their label. And so they said, well, Carl Crawford, he posted
Now,
things.
now ain't that about a bitch? We're talking about an international star. And her label, the label she signed to, was doing the bare minimum, as in 1501. So she succeeded in spite of whatever the fuck 1501 had going on. Like, I just wanted to point that out because I don't think one day, she did the documentary talking about, 2020 up to now, and it was really, about her mental health and trying to move forward with life while dealing with the passing of her mother, being shot, being vilified in the public, and trying to, still be herself. But one day we're gonna have to have a conversation or a documentary or something about the entire story. But I'll continue because again, this ain't no short video.
Negative about you and Ferris, didn't he? And she said yes. And so again, the defense is highlighting the fact that she's had issues that were all over the internet, that she was having issues with other people. So you're blaming everything on Miss Cooper, just Milagro. You're blaming everything on Miss Cooper, but you had these other instances. So that's the point of them pulling up all these different instances and then saying, well, around this time. So in this text, when you're describing this, you're not talking about Miss Cooper, are you? And it was like a text between them. She was like, she's feeling low. She feel like she's effing dying. And I guess in that one, she still was discussing the stuff with that she was going through with Crawford and Jay Prince. And so then when they get down to the text that says, and we went over that one, nobody gives me the grace, when she talks about being shot and how people make it seem like other people are the victim and nobody's giving me the grace. So then they ask, who you talking about? Because it was in this thread and perhaps they were trying to pull out. Maybe you really wasn't even talking about Milagro. But she responded and said she was talking about Milagro, all her fans, and everyone that agrees with her. So nobody's just giving her grace. They're not giving her the benefit of the doubt that she actually was telling the truth. They just want to believe what Tory Lanez has to say. And then in the same text, she says she's constantly looking for validation and kindness from people on the internet. And she said because she would read the headlines and in her mind she thought the public would know this some BS, like these people just trying to start stuff or do stuff. And she said she would read the comments and be like, these people really are feeding into this stuff and they really do, um they're interpreting this in a way and they believe it. But she thought that, I guess, the reasonable, prudent person, as we say, would know that this is a bunch of BS and they can interpret the BS the way they do the headlines. I had on here, she got a little snippiness today. I had to write that down. She was like, what? Huh?
Yeah, she tired of
So
talking about this shit.
then when she says, in the text, it was another text where she says, well, in that text, she also mentions issues with family. So So they asked her, well, who was the family that you had issues with? And she was like, well, I don't remember what was going on at that time, or not family or close friends, people in her personal life. That's what she said. She didn't say family. She said people in her personal life. They said, well, you mentioned people in your personal life, so who is that? Like, that's not Milagro. So who is that you saying in your personal life that has done things that makes you tired and upset and defeated? And she said, they said, you're not being attacked by Milagro. And she said, but they mentioned the Aiden Ross again, academics. Are all of those the people that's in this text? So that's not just Milagro, that's other people too. And of course, she responded and she was saying that Tori, that Milagro is the one that brags about her relationship with Tori and his father. So they said, well, isn't academic school with Tori too? Don't they say they're friends? She said yes. She said, isn't Aiden Ross saying he friends with Tori? She said yes. She said, and he said, and we can go down the list. Meek Mill is cool with Tori. Drake is cool with Tori. And she said, no, he said, don't Meek Mill and Drake say free Tory? And she said, well, I know they're friends. I don't know if they say free Tory or whatever, but that was kind of what they said. Like, they're one of the people that say free Tory. So again, setting the space, setting the tone that you ain't the only one, that Milagro ain't the only one. And there are several people that don't like you. And
All right, so Pam is setting the scene of the back and forth interaction between Megan and the defense attorney, Jeremy McLemont, who's defending Milagro. And again, he's trying to point out all of the different people who may have kind of an anti Meg stance or have a pro Tory stance, and basically trying to say, why are these people not being sued? Why is it such a mission for Milagro? Now, I wasn't there, but I've been covering this for long enough to know that out of everybody who spoke on Megan, Milagro was the one who took it the furthest. Again, talking about her family, alleging that her family was just drunks and crackheads. Those are her remarks, alleging that Megan is mentally incapacitated and can't run her own life or her own career, alleging that she's sleeping around with uh T Ferris, and that T Ferris was allegedly romantically involved with her mama, and now he laying with her. All this stuff is well beyond just the realm of I disagree with the verdict. I don't think Tori did it. Like, she's gone well above and beyond, which I've said the whole time, but we'll continue. I just wanted to outline that in my own way.
several people that are famous, but you coming after Milagro. So then she says, this is where the smoke starts, the fire. She was like, are you saying it's okay that because other people's done it to me, done it to me before, that it's okay for your client to do it? She literally asked the attorney that question. The attorney responds, and they really were having a back and forth, almost like they was on the phone, like, hey, so are you saying A, B, C, D, and E? And it started kind of being a back and forth conversation. I'm like, hold on. First of all, he asked the questions. You don't ask the questions, but I mean, he was letting it happen. He was kind of going back and forth, and then he started. It became almost a conversation where he was talking over her. So that's when the judge intervened and was like, "Counsel, you can't talk over a witness." And he was like, "I never heard that before." And the judge was like, "You have never heard that you're not supposed to talk over a witness?" And so he was like, okay, judge, basically. But yeah, it got a little, she wanted to know, are you really trying to defend this thing and say, well, other people's done it, so that makes it okay for her to do it? And she really asked him that question. I was like, oh. So then they said he basically was saying, like, you said Milagros not famous. She has the least amount of influence. So why is she your target? And she was like, well, that's the point. She not famous. No, she's not. She was like real clear to make everybody, she ain't famous. She's not famous. She doesn't have influence. She didn't say she doesn't have influence. She said just because she's not famous doesn't mean she doesn't have influence, and was like she basically has garnered fame off of her name.
And that is exactly what the issue is, right? These other people, they talk about other subject matter, whether it be the DJ that don't spin, whether it be Aiden, whether it be Joe Budden, whether it be whomever, right? But they have other things, and not just that they talk about, but other things that garner attention, right? Milagro may talk about other things on her shows, her station heads or whatever, but she garners attention from attacking Megan Thee Stallion, antagonizing Megan Thee Stallion. You know what I'm saying? Even to where, even when she just comes out and goes to an award show or something, she makes it a point to add it to say, oh, Megan Thee Stallion looked a mess. Look at her wig. Look at her outfit. She look a mess. Look at them shoes. Which, I don't like to talk about people's appearance in a negative fashion, but it's like, come on, man, chill. But that's where she gets the extra attention. That's where the clips get chopped up, and then they start spreading on social media. Milagro says XYZ about Megan Thee Stallion, and that garners her more attention, more followers, more numbers, which adds into her financial situation. You know what I mean? So that's why Megan doesn't fuck with her specifically. It's like you're literally building your name, your platform, and your so-called notoriety off of shitting on me at my expense. Not gonna happen.
She's famous for talking about her. So then they go into, you were diagnosed with PTSD. And you tell the doctor that you got shot? She said yes. She said, did you tell the doctor that about all these other people that was talking about you too when you was talking about it? She said, well, I told the doctor that I was, suffering from ridicule. Are the only screenshots you gave related to Milagro? Did you give them any other information related to all these other people that got something to say online? Did you give it to them? She said, no, the ones I gave had to do with, Milagro. She doesn't, I think, or she may have said she doesn't know. So on that, she was like, I don't know. So then, of course, he reminds her of the doctor, the psychologist that came on, who said that when she was reviewing everything, the only information that she got was about Milagro. So she didn't get no information about an academic. She didn't get no information about an Aiden Ross. She didn't get no information about any of them. So, yeah. So then they go on to the whole, they get to the situation of, he mentioned again, Milagro only got 40,000 followers, I think, on Instagram. So what is going on here? And she said, uh he said, did you know Milagro before this? Did you know her? Said, no, I don't, I didn't know her before this. So it's showing that, she wasn't known like that. In fact, from my understanding, even when the jury, like, it was some people that heard of Megan Pete, some people heard of Tori, but I don't think any of the jurors that they asked had even heard of Milagro. So they probably had no clue about YouTube and all of this stuff. But yeah, anyway, that's when she reiterated that just because you only got 40,000 followers on Instagram, that doesn't mean you don't reach many people. Because you still could reach many people when you got 2,000 subscribers or 2,000 people, and you can still reach people. So then asked her, did Milagro going on DJ Academics to do the interview, did that bother you? She said yes. Said, why do you care about Milagro more than anybody else out here? Why you care about her? And that's, and the same answer about what she had been doing and how it's consistent and all of that. And then they asked her, do you know what defamation is? She said, everything that Milagro is doing to me. That was her definition.
Facts.
She said, but if you're asking me if I know the technical definition, no, I don't know the technical definition of defamation. So then he goes into, so he talks about, he gets into trying to show, pull out trial information that can be compared to other information in order to prove that she did not, when she said that she perjured herself on the stand, meaning Milagro, because the defamation, again, the defamation claim is that she alleged that Megan perjured herself when she was on the stand, which is a felony, which is a crime. So it's defamation per se. So then they mentioned Jaquan and the affidavit. And again, that was read yesterday. Jaquan said that there was a fight. Said there was a news posting, I guess, from some article. They pull up the blog, but it got taken down because it was only supposed to be used for limited purposes. It wasn't like entered in evidence. So they put it up, and for those purposes, they said that she got into.
And that's something that I also heard about Milagro's defense was that they were pulling up um, blog clippings, but they weren't actually submitted into evidence, right? And that they were having some hiccups with their presentation and stuff like that because the judge was basically like, hey, you keep showing things that were not previously approved. You know what I'm saying? So they were just kind of like springing stuff up or what have you. So that's another thing that I've heard about how this conversation went in cross.
To the fight with Kelsey. And so they put up a photo of They said, "Did you see the photo of Kelsey and Kelsey's injuries?" So they put the photo up of Kelsey, and they show Kelsey. I don't know if you guys have seen it around, but she had like scratches on her legs and stuff on this photo.
Now, remember, those photos were shown in the Tory Lanez presentation. Y'all remember the Tory Lanez presentation a few months ago? Where him and his legal team and Luna and Deanna London and all them, they were rallying behind him, trying to act like they had new evidence. And then there was those photos of blood on Kelsey's leg, and they tried to present it like those were wounds on Kelsey's leg. And it was cleared up that that was actually Megan's blood that was on Kelsey's leg. So now they're trying to use that photo again about the blood because it does appear like it's scratches, like because it's streaks of blood on her leg, but they're portraying it like Megan did that to her, like maybe she scratched her leg up, like like yeah, we're gonna get in a fight and I'm gonna just scrape the shit out your leg. Okay, when have we ever seen that happen?
And so they said, "Did you see it?" She said, "No." So then they put it up for her to see it. She said she hadn't seen it before that she recalls. So they asked, "Well, how did she get those injuries?" They said, "When Tori was beating her up. That's probably how she got those injuries."
Shit. So Megan said probably when Tori was beating up Kelsey. That's probably where she sustained the injuries. And that's another piece that has been largely swept under the rug in terms of the activities of that night. Because, of course, everybody wanted to question whether or not Megan was really shot, which I don't understand how you can question somebody being shot when there's x-rays and all of these different things. You see her literally in the ambulance and everything. They got the medical reports of removing the shrapnel from the bullets. There was still bullet fragments still left in her foot, by the way. But I'll digress on that. So remember, Kelsey sent the text out, help, Tori shot Meg, but then there was also the text of Kelsey saying that Tori had hit her also, right? That got swept under the rug. There's certain people out there that have been, bringing it up the whole time, but it's been largely swept under the rug, largely forgotten. And now we have Megan coming out in court saying, probably when he was beating her up. So Megan comes out and thrusts it right back into the conversation of Tory Lanez putting his hands on Kelsey and shooting Megan.
So then they move on to apparently in Meg's, well, I'm not going to say apparently because they put up the transcript, but at the trial, when Meg was testifying, she was describing her injuries and she said she had nerve damage, and she said that she doesn't have feeling, and they said, "What do you mean by nerve damage?" And she said, "I don't have feeling in my left foot." She said, it's numb. She didn't have feeling in it. So then they put up the doctor's report who testified, which was interesting that they allowed it. I think the judge thought she sat for the whole trial. So she said it would like not present sense impression. What was the hearsay exception? Effect on the listener. But it's not really that because she wasn't there. But I think maybe everybody thought she was there the whole time. But she did testify she was only there. She was only there for her testimony and then she left. But anyway, they put up the doctor's testimony, and it was the doctor's assistant who testified, who said that they didn't find any nerve. It was another word they used. It wasn't like, it was some word before that, and I didn't catch it. And she kept kind of saying it over and over again, and she didn't know what that meant. They said on the left side. So they were trying to use that to show that she's testifying that she had nerve damage, but then the doctor said that it wasn't no nerve damage when he testified. So this is all at the, at the trial. So that went back and forth for a minute. Then they had technical difficult. Well, they was having technical difficulties. We was only gonna be here for a couple of hours, and it didn't start till like 8:15, even though it was supposed to start at 8. And then when they were trying to play audio to either impeach her because they were, she would get certain testimony, and they would go to her, try to go to her deposition and say, well, that's not what you said in the deposition, and the audio wasn't working. So they called tech. So they took 10 minutes, and then tech basically said, we gonna have to redo all this up in here. So we had to go to a whole nother courtroom across the hall.
Wow.
So we lost probably about 30, 40 minutes on a day that was going to be short anyway. So we ended up going across the hall. It was a little warmer though, because that courtroom is cold than a mug. They keep everything on ice in Miami because it is freezing everywhere I go. So then they asked her, did she feel like it was conflicting information between what she testified to and what the doctor said? And she said, no, like I said that I can't feel the left side of my foot. The doctor said, she said, first I said I had nerve damage. She said, then I said I couldn't feel the left side of my foot, but the doctor said they didn't see nerve damage specific just to the left foot, but they didn't say they didn't see it in the left or the right at all or whatever. So she was saying she didn't see it was conflicting, but that's what they was using. Because what they're trying to do, I guess, is pull up certain things that show that perhaps she may have not been totally honest on the stand, which would help them with their defamation portion because truth is a defense. So that's what they're doing. So then they put up, talk about Kelsey's injuries, and they put up her picture again with her bruises and scratches. ask her, do you remember how she got the injuries? And she's like, she basically only knows what Kelsey told her. Kelsey is the one that told her that Tori beat her up. So then they put a picture of Tori up. And Tori don't have, basically look at his body. He has no scratches, he has no bruises, nothing. Of course, using that to try to show that he doesn't look like he was involved in the altercation. And asked, did she see any wounds? You see any wounds on here? You see any wounds on this picture? She was like, no, I don't see any visible wounds. And then they talk about drinking, right? And they say they put up where she was talking about when she was drinking, and she had stopped drinking because she knew it wasn't healthy for her. She can't give the exact time, I guess, when she stopped, when she, with the drinking, or when she calmed down with drinking. I don't think, no, she totally stopped. But she was mentioning how when her mom died in the documentary, she just started drinking and stuff. Like when her mom passed away, somebody said that yesterday. Like, I could see why she was drinking. She went through that like that fast. So she said that's what she was doing to cope, and she realized that it was unhealthy, and so she pulled away from that. And she said the public didn't really know the extent. Like when she was on social media, I guess she was partying or doing whatever or celebrating. Public didn't know the extent of, I guess, what she was drinking to mask some of the grief that she was going through with her mom. And so then she mentions deleted message. She said, "Do you know?" They kept asking her, "Do you know for a fact that she was the mouthpiece for Tori, or that she was getting that Malaga was getting paid?" She said, "Yeah, I believe she was the mouthpiece of Tori." She said, "Well, you saying as a matter of fact?" She said, "Well, I would probably be able to connect it if y'all ain't delete these messages." And that's what she said.
Let's
She's like,
fucking
we didn't
go.
delete these messages, we would probably know the extent of all of this stuff. But because these doggone messages is deleted, we don't know the extent of everything. So then the attorney said, do you know if Sunstar, if your team decided to subpoena Sunstar phone? Said, I don't know what they did. I didn't have anything to do with that. She said, so maybe they could have gotten those deleted messages from him. Did they try to get his phone? No. Do you know what the messages say that was deleted? No. Are you saying as a fact that Miss Cooper is Tori's mouthpiece? She said, I believe so. She said, but I'm just a witness here. All right. That's what I believe. So then they asked her if she had any prescription medicines, or any type of mental health prescriptions for her PTSD. And she said no, but it's by choice. She said, they said, well, how do you function? She said she functions with the best, to the best of her ability. So then they had the text message that we talked about yesterday that I told you was a screenshot, and it had Dez on it, and she was saying that was one of her managers. And I said I saw Rock Nation. Well, it was confirmed that that was Desiree Perez in the text, where she was saying that was, that is her current management team. But she was telling her that she wanted her to keep your file, Desiree. Like, keep your file of all of this stuff, because she said she wanted to file suit. And that was like September 14th for 2022. She was preparing that she was going to have to sue Milagro even then.
Mm.
And of course, Des responded, yeah, we have everything. And hold on.
So she told Desiree Perez to hold on to the fact we
So then
kept the
they
files.
started asking her about her deals. Do you believe that you lost deals because of Milagro? And she was like, yes, because of the mental state that she was in. So then they pull up emails from the Just Eats. And in the Just Eats, it was between somebody named Miss Bats and someone named Daniel is her, the person that worked for Rock Nation that does all of their deals, the one that testified.
Daniel Kenny.
So they pulled up emails and it was a lot of back and forth. So in part of the email, the lady, Miss Betts from Just Eats, was like, listen, I'm getting anxiety um regarding the timeline that keeps getting pushed back. Like everything keeps getting pushed back, with these timelines. And apparently this was something that was gonna be, somebody mentioned Christina Aguilera. So yeah, it was like they kept mentioning Christina. So I think he was doing that deal for both Christina and Meg. So in the email, she was saying she was complaining about not communicating in timelines. So what they were trying to establish is that there were other reasons why this deal might have fell through.
Now, what I don't understand is how you can paint that picture of there were other reasons why the deal fell through if the communications and stuff wasn't happening according to the timeline when Megan was the one who was holding up the timeline because she was trying to get herself together, right? Because Megan was the one who was going off, doing the retreats, doing the therapy, not recording, not showing as much interest in her music career as it was detailed already. So if she's not communicating as well, clearly that's going to throw off the timeline because she is trying to get her mental health together from all of this depression, PTSD, stress, all of that stuff. And you can't really throw Christina Aguilera in there because I believe she ended up still being a part of the project. They just removed Megan, which I believe Christina Aguilera was also and may still also be represented by Rock Nation under management. So that would make sense for David to have been working on that deal for both of them.
And then there was a point where I guess Meg was needing all of this stuff, or I don't know if it was just her or both of them, but there was a time where there was a necessity for certain things, and they said, "Well, we said we'll provide 150,000, but the demands was just so much." So they were talking about all the things, the stylist, bringing the stylist, doing this, having the wardrobe, doing this and doing that, and was like complaining about the demands that were there as well. So then it was a March 25th, 2023, where Dan, I think, emailed Miss Batts, and that's when the whole, well, Miss Batts ended up emailing and saying, I saw this thing about her stepping back and going offline. So of course they asked, was that around the time that Tori was being sentenced? She said she didn't know. Then there was another email
No,
June 5th.
if that was 2023, he was already, well, it could have been around the sentencing, but I thought that was maybe, possibly.
Of 2023 with Miss Betts to Daniel, and the email alleged that there was a conflict that they were saying it was a conflict in time, and they asked her, like, was there a conflict that could have affected the deal? And she kept saying, I'm not a part of this email. Why you didn't ask him when he was on the stand? I don't know anything about the context. I don't know what any of this stuff means. So again, they were putting out there that pretty much there may have been other reasons outside of your, Milagro or the mental health as to why she lost the deal. Then they get to the Call of Duty. Y'all hit the like button and subscribe, you guys. I see you coming in. I see you coming in. They get to the Call of Duty deal. They said, well, when did you realize that this Call of Duty deal was going to involve shooting? And is that the reason why that you said you didn't want the deal? She said, "Yeah, when I realized it was going to involve shooting, I was like, I didn't want people to be able to shoot at me and think it's funny and put it online cuz they was already joking like that." So they said, "So you didn't know anything about the fact that you were going to be a skin?" And she said, "Well, I didn't know any of the specifics of the deal." So then they asked her, "Did you? So you don't know?" She said, "I don't really know what skins are." So then they said, "Well, did you ever reach out to the people at Call of Duty?" She was like, "No, baby." They put up that tweet. It was from August 23rd, 2021. And the tweet said, "We need to get a hot girl skin ASAP." That happened. And then the call.
Let's stop there. All right. So they're asking her about the Call of Duty deal that ultimately ended up falling through. And they say, hey, have you ever reached out to Call of Duty? Have you ever, you know what I'm saying? And she's basically saying she didn't really know what skins are on the game, right? So then they come out and say, well, here you are in 2021 before the deal even took shape. This tweet of you reaching out on social media to Call of Duty saying you need a hot girl skin on the game, right? And I've been seeing some discourse about this on Twitter and online, and I think it's kind of interesting to assume that she put that she 100% had to put that out herself when we know she has management team, we know she has social media managers, we know she has all of these different things. It's very much possible that she may have put it up herself, but I think all of these celebrities, and of course they're gonna say, well, the same thing for Tory Lanez because allegedly it was somebody on his team who put out that tweet about, um, you know, it wasn't Kelsey that shot Megan, right? They try to say that wasn't Tory that said that. It was somebody on his team from his account. And the thing is, if you can assume that that was somebody from Tory's team that put that tweet out, and that's like super intimate. Like, why would somebody on your team be commenting on who got shot and who didn't when when the artist you represent is on trial for shooting somebody? That would be the last thing I would want my team to be logging into my shit responding to. But if we're willing to accept that a team member from Tory put that out, then why is it so far fetched to believe that Megan would have somebody from her team tweet at Call of Duty? Especially something like that, playful for a video game. Hey, we need a hot girl skin on the game. You don't even know if they're gonna hit you back. You just putting it out there like shit. If they chirp, they chirp. If not, fuck it. It was just in fun. And then a deal ended up coming from it, or a potential deal because it never got closed. So there's that. I just wanted to speak on that because I did see people talking about that earlier.
Call of Duty tweet like responded to it. And it was like Call of Duty real something ish. I think is how they responded. And that was August 23rd, 2021. So then she said, "Well, I don't know. I don't believe I may not have been the one that tweeted. I don't think she specifically said it wasn't her, but she did say it probably was somebody else on my team that put that out there because they ain't like start negotiating for 2 years, like 2023. But it was out there on her Twitter 2021, and they found it over there on Malagro's team. So they put that up there. But she said it was someone else that probably posted it on Twitter, not her. She said, I still don't really know what skins means. I'm like,
And if you don't actually play the game, you can kind of have an idea of what happens on the game, but you may not know something like what the skins are or the ramifications of the skins. Because again, if she would have had full knowledge of it, then she probably would have went through with the deal. Like shit, I have a full understanding of what the game is and what happens with the game. The deal's on the table. Pay me. But for her to back out from the deal because she found out that she was gonna be a shootable character, then clearly she didn't fully have a entire grasp on what would have come with that skin, right? Like, yeah, you can play as Megan Thee Stallion, but again, on the other hand, it's like you can also theoretically kill Megan Thee Stallion in the game. And it's like, hold on. I ain't signed up for that. Niggas already playing with my name as far as that goes. Why would I give people access to do that to me in a video game and do it all day if they so please? Nah, let's call it off. Which is ultimately what ended up happening.
okay. So then they talk about the deposition of.
But I will say I can understand why somebody would think that's strange. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a tweet from your account that was in 2021 of you reaching out allegedly and you got the deal 2 years later. You mean to tell me you didn't know what was going on? I can understand somebody questioning it, but again, if we're going to apply, uh, you know, the opportunity or the possibility that somebody else on the team could do it for someone else, I don't see why you couldn't imagine that somebody who's an even bigger star would have somebody on their team possibly tweeting on their behalf from at least sometimes.
Academics. So they were like, are you aware that, in the first deposition, we went over that where they were asking him questions about his source and he didn't want to give up his source. So they had to go to the courts and the courts was like, you got to give up your source. You don't have that journalistic privilege or whatnot. So he had that second deposition. So at the second deposition, they were they asked her, they said, well, do you think that academic is, in your opinion, that academic works in conjunction with lanes? And she, she thinks that they work in conjunction. They said, well, do you know if your attorneys had access to his phone? Because if you saying these people was working with him, why you not getting access to their phones? So she said, I don't know what my attorneys did. So she said she didn't know that. She don't know if they tried to get his phone or not. And then they said, well, how do you know the academics and Tori and him, they all work in conjunction? She said, didn't Milagro say that her and academics had the same source?
Right.
Because there was a tweet, I want to say related to the DNA, where Milagro was like, or maybe it might not have been a tweet, it might have been a video. It's
It's
so many
both.
that we see. I don't. One
It's a tweet and it's a video. Well, audio.
of those, there was a comment of that I knew about it because me and him had the same sources. Now, and he said, she said they had the same sources. So wherever they are getting their information, she said, and I believe that source is Tory Lanez, especially with the DNA test, because that was under, that was under protective order. That was only the parties had it.
Right.
And then they said, well, didn't you hear in academics deposition? Academics said they don't have the same sources. And in fact, academics said he don't believe Milagro got a source. That's what he said. That's what he said in his deposition. And she was like, nah, I don't remember that. But yeah, that was played yesterday where academics was like, we don't have the same source. And I don't even believe that, she got a source.
Which is cap, but excuse me, the DJ that don't spend, he's not gonna give you anything. You know what I'm saying? He's not the one under, uh, he's not a defendant in this case. He's just an extra piece. He's a witness. He's a, let's see what we can get out of him in terms of he's somebody also associated with Tory in the media, kind of doing a bit of his bidding, right? Clearly, he got the information from somebody who had privileged information that wasn't even out before the courtroom could even reveal it. And Milagro says, we got the same source. But for him, he doesn't want to incriminate Milagro, right? He don't give a fuck about Milagro, be clear. He claimed he was going to put up a goddamn defense fund for her and never followed through on it. So he don't give a fuck about her. But on the same token, he's not going to incriminate himself on her behalf to say, oh yeah, I think we got the same source. He gonna be like, shit, we don't got the same source. I don't think she got sources at all. Because he views him, he's gonna view himself above her anyway. He don't really respect what she do, you know? So you could take that with a grain of salt. But again, that's the defense attorney's job to try to create those doubts.
He said, "Do you know that you're able to get messages? Are you able to get messages even to people that you didn't sue?" And she was like, she didn't know. So then he started asking her different information that she got. Like, you got records from Unite the People. You got certain records from Milagros' phone. They went down some of the records she had that she's had. She said, in those records that you received, did you ever see that Milagro was being paid for being a mouthpiece? So she said that she didn't remember, but she would give like the inferences, I guess, because like on Unite the People, they were kind of just on their emails, they were like sending some documents and all of that. So on that end, I guess she was saying like there's some info. She's like, oh yeah, and the Unite the People, this and this and that. So she would say certain inferences that may have came from stuff. So they said, but they said, well, what emails do you say that you believe that she is being paid for a mouthpiece, or that's where it's coming from? And she said, I don't know. Said which specific. She's kind of arguing with him about like what information are you talking about? And he's like, you tell me. It's hundreds of emails, hundreds of texts. You tell me which one specifically mentions Milagro getting paid to be his mouthpiece. And she's like, if you put the email in front of me, I'll be able to tell you what it is. She's like, no, I'm not talking. I want you to tell me what email or what text messages is what it says. So it was a little back and forth for a minute. And
So basically, what that says to me is that Milagro's defense is expecting, or at least trying to paint the picture, that she should know what it is that her attorneys are doing. Like, if they have these documents, if they have these exhibits, you should be basically looking at this stuff too, right? Her legal team is building the case. They have the exhibits. They can go through and tell you what's in there. Megan is paying them to do this. Hey, I've been harmed. I've been humiliated. I've been harassed. I went to my legal team. They say, we got a case. This is strong. We're going to move forward with it. I've given them everything. They're pursuing this. They're getting all the information, because they're asking about, why didn't you do this with academics' phone? Why didn't you do this? Why isn't this person here? Whatever. And she's like, yo, that's not my job. I'm not in there going through all of these things. That's what they do. Right? But Milagro's defense is like, well, if all of this stuff is affecting you, why are you not intimately involved with the data? That's basically what it sounds like to me. Like, if all of this stuff hurts you so much, then how are you not abreast of everything in here? Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking these questions, right? Because we know there's Zelle payments and Cash Apps and at bare minimum $3,000 that were paid to Milagro. There's even more payments that were paid to Milagro, but we know for sure the payments with uh and I hate to call him Sunstar because that ain't even that nigga real name. His name is Carlisle. With Carlisle Peterson's name on that motherfucker, we know for sure 3,000. And then there's other shit too.
And so then they get into the DNA tweet. The DNA tweet, they was arguing about, of course, where it had DNA, that DNA's the DNA was not found on the gun, or Tori's DNA was excluded, and it was not found on the gun. And she was like, it was not found on the gun. He said, what does that mean? Like, when you were in, like, did you see the forensic testimony? She was like, no. Like, of course she wasn't there, so she didn't hear it, so he couldn't really get into what they said with the forensic. She said, doesn't that mean, like, what is wrong? What was Tory Lane's DNA found on the gun? Like, what? Yes or no? Like, I don't think he said yes or no. He probably should have. But he was like, what's the DNA found on the gun? And she was like, it was not found on the gun. Was Tory's DNA found on the gun? It's not found on. What does that mean? It couldn't be included and it couldn't be excluded. They couldn't exclude him from it.
Right, the
So
inconclusive, right.
he said, I'm just gonna move on. So then he pull up that tweet from the producer. So the producer, he had the goofy ninja. He was like, that's the goofy ninja one. The goofy ninja said that he hasn't shot her, but the bullets match up with the bullets from her feet match up with the bullets in her gun.
All right, so the producer, I believe, is Lil Jume, to be just to be clear.
And he said, he asked her, who is that? Your producer. Did you tell him to put that tweet up? No. He was probably putting it up because he was defending me. Well, is he your mouthpiece? She was like, no. Oh, okay. You didn't direct him to do it?
Oh
No.
man, come on. What the hell? So you mean to tell me the nigga put up one tweet versus a person who probably tweeted for 5 years straight? A person who went on Spaces, a person who went on YouTube, a person who went on Twitch 5 years straight, and you gonna pull up one tweet from Lil Jume to beat? Oh man, that's what y'all got.
Did you tell him to post it? No. So then she said, well, but that tweet isn't accurate, right? Because you didn't have any bullets, you had bullet fragments. So then apparently, when she was reading the transcript from the doctor, she read the whole thing. Like, when they would tell her to read lines, she would say, scroll, I want to read the whole thing. She said, I want to know the context. And she was doing that. And apparently, they helped a little bit on this one, because the doctor was saying that basically they call all things bullet fragments regardless. That's what they call it, because sometimes you can't tell because of probably the deformity and stuff, unless I guess they know without a shadow of a doubt, because it's a whole bullet, or it's not, the bullet hasn't, whatever bullets do, and it's intact. That's the only time they actually put bullets. So she was reading that and she said they call all bullets fragments. So no, he wasn't wrong. And this was before this doctor even before anybody testified that there was a difference between fragments and bullets. He posted that, so that was his interpretation of it. So they like, that was his opinion, right? Yeah, and she said that's he's he said, he do you think he's a liar? Even though it wasn't a whole bullet, it was just a bullet. Do you think he's a liar? He said, no, that's not, he's not a liar. That's just how he interprets it. And then she said, because he's not a doctor. Yeah, that's his opinion, right? Said, no, this doctor, and she kept reading it over and over again. He wasn't wrong, even though he said bullets, because this doctor said these we call all of them fragments unless we know we see a whole fully intact. Then we'll just say
All right, so the defense is trying to trip her up with this Lil Ju tweet because Lil Ju said that the bullet matched the gun, right? So Milagro's attorney is saying, well, in the report from the doctor, they said it was bullet fragments, but he got online and called it a bullet. And Megan is basically saying, no, read this. The doctor says that all bullets are identified as bullet fragments unless the bullet is fully intact. So even if it's like a little bit, a lot of it, whatever it is, based on the way that the bullet is fired and the way they report it in their examination, it's going to be called a fragment either way, right? And Miss Pam said that the fact that she read that in the way that she did and she kept reading it, she feels like it worked in Megan's favor to get to the technical terminology from the doctor rather than how Milagro's defense was trying to spin it.
bullet. But other than that, fragment may actually be a full bullet. It's just because of the way it's deformed or whatever it is, they don't do it. They still call it a fragment. And she kept reading it over and over again. That's how I'm reading it. And that's what they call all bullet fragments. That's how I'm reading it. And he was like, but that's an opinion, right? And he ain't your mouthpiece piece either. Like, okay, I'm picking up what y'all putting down here. So then they mentioned a gag order. Are you aware that there was a gag order in this case? She said on me. They said on all the parties. Wasn't nobody supposed to talk about it. She said, I ain't know nothing about it, but I don't talk about her in no way. So whatever. So apparently there was a video of, I mean, they just said, did you talk to the press yesterday? And the judge was like, this is something to talk about outside the presence of the jury. But we all know, like, there was a video of which somebody asked her a question and she generally said something, I think had to do with bullying or something yesterday. So they was trying to bring that up, but the judge stopped that because that was nothing appropriate to talk about in front of the jury. So then they pull up the October 30th, 2020 protection order. And that protection order was from the criminal case, which says that Mr. Peterson can't contact you, be near her, use a third party to contact her. And it was like paragraph 13. And they said, well, why did you get a protective order? And she said she got it against Tori. And part of that too was her beliefs about the, I guess, collaboration with Milagro. The word collaboration is my words, and ain't no quote from them. I'm just explaining it summarily. They said felt like Tori reached out to her to be a mouthpiece, so that was part of it. So then they showed um that Sunstar Peterson's contact with Milagro, or Tory Lane's contact with Milagro, was September 17, 2020, which would have been a month before the protective order was entered. So the attorney was trying to say that doesn't correspond with your theory that she got the protective order. She believes that because she got the protective order, that's the reason why Milagro became her mouthpiece. Milagro became Tori's mouthpiece. Let me say that again so I can be clear for the record, because that sounds a mess. The theory of Megan Pete was that after this PPO was entered, this protective order was entered on October 30th, 2020, she believes that Tori was using Milagro as a mouthpiece. That was the reason he reached out to her. So he reached out to her because he needed someone to be his mouthpiece because he could no longer talk anymore about Meg because they were under a protective order.
Okay.
So they showed a screenshot that Tory or his father, one or the other or both, reached out to her on September of 2020, September 17th, which would have been before the protective order. So they were trying to say that they didn't reach out to her specifically because they needed a mouthpiece because the protective order was in. They had reached out to her before the protective order was even there. So they had already reached out to her before there was a protective order that was in place. So that's what they were trying to elicit.
So you're trying to say because they had previous contact with, and this is not her saying this, this is her relaying the information from the defense. The defense is trying to paint the picture that because Tory or his father had contact with Milagro prior to the protective order being placed to where Tory couldn't speak on Megan or anything regarding the case, that there's no way that they reached out to Milagro as a mouthpiece. That doesn't make sense to me, right? Because if I reach out to somebody after a protective order is put in place, it's a little too obvious, ain't it? Like, okay, you got hit with a protective order on October 20th or whatever the fuck day, and then November 1st, you just had first contact with this person for the first time in your life, and then they came out and started taking the mantle of speaking about the situation because you couldn't. That would be a little bit obvious, right? Like, I stopped talking on October 20th, and another motherfucker just tagged in. But this is somebody that you already was peeping game on because it's like, okay, homegirl is already on our side. Let's tap in with her. You know what I'm saying? Because there's only so many people on our side. Because early on, I feel like a lot of people was like, oh man, this shit is crazy. And over time, Tory started getting a lot of support, right? But it's like, okay, as far as media, who's our allies? DJ that don't spin. Milagro was out here. Aiden Ross. Okay, let's you know what I mean. You had No Jumper AD, right? While he was there at the time. So yeah, you're gonna start taking inventory of who's speaking kindly in your direction and trying to build those alliances to be like, all right, we got to weather this storm. If I, it can't just be me talking about it. We got to start giving people our side of the story. We got to start combating what's going on. So to me, that seems a little trivial, but again, it's the lawyer's job to try to create any sort of uh, way to defend Milagro.
So then they said, are you also aware that in criminal cases, they automatically, once the person is arrested, and he was arrested for shooting you, that they gonna automatically put in a protective order, that you don't have to do anything. And I believe she maintained that she was the reason why there was a protective order that was out there. And she didn't know if it was, she don't even remember when Tory was arrested. So she can't say they just automatically put it in. And it was a difference because in 2025 in January, of course, it was in the civil court because it wasn't connected to a criminal matter. So she did have to go. And so they were differentiating between the criminal, which probably or may have been put in by the government, as opposed to civil, which is you going down there and saying somebody's harassing you. But they really didn't get into the civil because he didn't wasn't able to put it on the screen. So he kind of struck that question and said he'd get back to it. So he probably get back to it on Monday. So then they said, but there's no point in time that you tried to get a protective order from Miss Cooper. Is that right? She said, no, that's right. No, I haven't. They said, you've never tried to block Miss Cooper either on social media? She was like, I don't know. I could have tried to block her. I don't know. So then they pull up the deposition where she said in a deposition, they had the video where she said, she said, she did not block. They asked her, "Did you block Miss Cooper?" This is the deposition. "Have you blocked Miss Cooper on social media?" She said no. This is the deposition. She straight up said no. Like she didn't say, "I don't know." She said no. And she said, "Because I want her to see me winning." Although she wishes all this bad stuff on me, I want her to be able to see with that, despite what she's trying to do, that I'm still doing well in life. So that's why she hasn't blocked her. And they were like, "Wouldn't she see you anyway?" She said, "What do you mean? Wouldn't she see you because you famous? She don't have to see you like she don't have to see you on social media. You famous. She gonna see you anyway." So, and then the attorney said, then she said, "Well, hopefully," she said, "I mean, I guess hopefully she don't see me in person, that we don't see each other in person." The attorney was like, "Maybe she'll go to your show or something." And everybody was laughing. She was like, "I hope not." It's like, "Maybe she'll come to one of your shows." I was like, "Okay." They said, "Do you believe that Tori paid Kelsey at some part, at some point? What information do you have?" She said, "Yes, she believes that Tori paid Kelsey." "What information do you have that Tori paid Kelsey?" She said, "Well, first of all, he offered us $1 million. Then she met with him and she told me about him offering the business deal. And then she gets on the stand after she done told the truth to the police. She gets on the stand and all of a sudden she got amnesia and she don't know anything. So yeah, I believe she got paid for her silence because she got on the stand and all of a sudden she don't remember nothing that happened. And she pled the fifth. So they said, "Well, that's an opinion, right? That's what you believe.
Oh wow.
And no one can stop you from your opinion. Is that right? But you really don't have any proof that she was paid. That's just your opinion. And you're entitled to your opinion." You see what they picking up? They trying to hammer in this defamation.
Right. But the problem is Megan Thee Stallion is not coming out here badgering Kelsey. She's not creating a campaign against Kelsey for 5 years. Like Megan Thee Stallion is known for her music videos. She keep a brand deal. She keep an endorsement. She had a successful tour. Like she's known for various things to where when you say the name Megan Thee Stallion, you don't think, "Oh, that's the girl who said Kelsey was paid by Tory." She hasn't made it her personal business to talk about Kelsey and Tory for the last 5 years. Milagro, on the other hand, what else do we know about this woman? What else do we care about pertaining to this woman in real life? Outside of her uh contentious content aimed at Megan Thee Stallion, what else do we give a fuck about her for? Nothing. And that's not to be mean. That's not to shit on her. That's not to take anything away from her that she feel that she's gained in life. But as it pertains to this conversation, what do we know or remember about Milagro? It's her coverage of the Tory Lanez trial, which dealt with Megan Thee Stallion. And ever since that trial took place, we know she's been anti misinformation, attack her mental capacity, attack her family, attack whatever she possibly can. That's different. Having an opinion is one thing. We all have opinions, but weaponizing the idea of having an opinion and then starting to harass a person under that guise is something different. So But I get, again, I've been saying it this whole video. I understand the angle that her defense team is coming from because they have to, even if it's ridiculous.
They like, this is the opinion. And then she said, well, if I was suing Kelsey, I probably could. I probably would get all the information, but I'm not suing Kelsey. So then they said, well, what did you see on like, did you see the picture on Kelsey? They get back to the fight. Did you see the picture on Kelsey? Well, Kelsey has scratches and stuff, I guess, on her legs. So what did you say happened? You said Kelsey told you he pulled her hair, slapped her, and something else. I don't know if he punched her, but it was
Sheesh.
like, that. She said, so how would you explain the scratches on the legs? And she was like, I don't know. Like, she's the one that told me that he beat her up and that he pulled her hair and all of that stuff. I don't know. She could have failed. I don't know. So they said, well, can you describe the blows and the hits? And I was like, listen, I'm telling you, this is what she let me know that he did this to her. And then she said, oh, what are you getting at? So then she said, didn't you guys get in a fight? She said, oh, that's where you going with this. That's a lot that she was doing too. Was she would try to figure out where the attorney was going. And so she was like, oh, I get where you going. I pick up what you putting down. Let me tell you this. Let me make this very clear. This is what she said, and this was the ending of the day. She said, I am almost 6 feet tall. She said, she is 4'11". She said, so when that witness, Sean Kelly, said, I saw two girls fighting, she said, what? Tori is 5'2". He probably thought he saw two women fighting, or he said he thought he saw two women fighting because he probably thought it was me. But if he actually would have seen me, he would have known it couldn't have been me because how tall I am and how much I'm over them. She said, there is no way. She said, so I understand based on how Love Fella is, Tori and her, why they thought that it was two women fighting.
Oh
She
shit.
said basically she too big to be fighting a Kelsey, all right? Because she way too big. She ain't fighting no Kelsey. And she wanted to be clear that she ain't. No, he might have thought he saw two women fighting because you had these little shorties. Little shorties.
This is not funny at all because this is still a man fighting a woman, although it's trivializing his stature. But this ain't no laughing matter at all. I wanna be extremely clear about that because we're hearing about a man putting hands and grabbing hair, allegedly possibly slapping or punching Kelsey, and it's being misidentified as Megan partaking in a fight because, of course, people that have been talking about this, people that are, trying to use that as a gotcha, like Sean Kelly said he saw two women fighting. You mean to tell me he saw two women fighting, but it wasn't Megan? And Megan is saying, look, we wasn't in no damn fight. All right. Whatever he saw, that was Tori and Kelsey. It was two of them around the same height going at it. Because remember, Megan originally asked to get out the car. She exited the car, to my knowledge, if I can remember correctly, twice. She got out once. She re-entered the vehicle. She got out again after this argument where she allegedly berated Tory Lanez and said he ain't shit. He a little ass nigga, little ass career. What's poppin' remix ass nigga? You ain't got no shit on going for yourself on your own. And she exits the vehicle again and says, I'll walk back to the house. Fuck y'all, I'll walk. This is how Megan Thee Stallion ends up outside the car. So if she's taking the liberty of exiting the vehicle and walking and is in fuck y'all mode, she's clearly not fighting anybody. She's not in a physical altercation with anybody. She's physically removed herself. So that would leave Tori and Kelsey. And then at some point, shots fire. Megan gets hit. It wasn't just shots fired, the clip is emptied. Megan shot, she crawls into the driveway. They got whatever they got going on back there. She's not even looking. Now remember, we just read Tory Lane's response in the appeal. His legal team said when Megan became apparent of a gun being brandished, that she should have ducked or ran. But she wasn't looking back, right? So why would you use that as a defense? She should have ran or ducked if your client didn't shoot.
But she ain't see me fight nobody, or he ain't see me fight nobody. Okay, we will break for the day. We'll be back Monday. Attorneys, please stay because we're going to go over some our jury instructions. And that's when I grabbed my notebook book and I left the building. So there's that. That's what happened today. And on Monday, we'll have more cross examination. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, please. And thank you.
All right. So that is Pam Esquire, the law intellect. Okay. Again, I want to try to get unbiased perspectives. Somebody who is in the middle. I don't know if she's a Megan Thee Stallion fan, but clearly she, probably didn't know much about Milagro coming into this either. So I want to get somebody who gonna straight shoot, give it to you raw about who and what took place, and just deduce down to, okay, this is how it went in the courtroom, right? And I think she did a pretty good job of doing that. Now, I'm sure some people may not like some of her demeanor or how she received some things, and that comes with it, you know? But again, I want to hear the no nonsense version without no extra spin, no extra cut on the dope. Even looking at the docket diva, who again, I believe that she comes from a very pro Megan standpoint. She said that she felt like it was a rough day for Megan in the courtroom. It was very contentious. It was a lot of Milagro's defense throwing her own words in her face and trying to find inconsistencies in her story, trying to poke holes in her story, try to find ways to absolve Milagro of her actions and try to, throw them back at Megan. So I just think that's how the day went. You know what I mean? And that's their job. But Monday will be another day. I believe Megan will be cross-examined one more time on Monday. I believe Milagro will be brought back on the stand one more time on Monday. And their goal is to try to get this thing wrapped up Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see. But again, I'm not on the ground out there. I'm reporting from the crib. So I'm just trying to get good references to talk about, because this is, I can't be there. And I don't want to have to like read into how people feel about the person. I just want to hear what are the facts of what happened in the courtroom. It's going to be enough feelings in the comments. It's going to be enough feeling online. It's going to be enough feelings everywhere else. But what actually happened? So let me know what y'all think of all of this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. And once again, shout out to Pam Esquire for, coming out and doing this and, giving us her perspective of the situation. Okay? I'm going to catch y'all a little bit later. Peace. glory of living righteous is setting in. My street knowledge and education's a perfect blend. Young mogul, independent, I've been setting trends. The first one from my family to be faithfully wed. Fuck niggas and the horses that they riding on. I see this shit from all angles like a polygon. I'm never politicking, the drama be piling on. Father and greats unacknowledged like I'm Bobby Bonds. Conversation with my lady about the paper route. 5 sit bank accounts, every day I make it count. They down talking my commentary for hating now. Well, I can take it cause I'm bodying your favorite now, please. I can do this shit in my sleep. I been writing for these niggas, y'all read it and weep. I been fighting these niggas if you speak on the street. I turn your birthday party into New Year's Eve. Don't let me take it there. We ain't playing fair. This the ATL, Southside nigga moving furniture like Wayfair. Life on hold, no insurance for your healthcare. Lifeline gone, so you wanna be a millionaire? Well, let me tell you about this world I built. The women I dodged, the niggas that I read for filth. The sympathy calls, consulting for the stacks I built. I had